All right. This is the last assignment that you're going to have before your test for Unit 6. You're going to do a statistics project. I did have some more projects in mind, but that would require you to be in school and they would have been more fun, so I'm sorry. But so what you're going to do is you're going to create a question to collect from people to get data and to be able to basically summarize everything you've learned as far as graphs and information and different types of sampling and stuff like that to be able to summarize and come up with conclusions using your data. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a question. Make sure your question gives answers that will be a numerical value. So, like for example, what's your shoe size? How many siblings do you have? How many pairs of shoes do you have? It could be anything. Don't just choose those three options just because I gave them to you. I want you to pick something that's not what I'm giving to you, okay? So you're going to pick an answer. Then you're going to tell me how will you ensure that your survey remains unbiased. Are you going to do it blindly? Are you going to do it systematically? Are you going to do a volunteer? What are you going to do that means that you're going to create an unbiased sample? Okay, and then you're going to tell me what type of sampling method you will be using. Now, I know it's going to be kind of hard to find different samples because of us being kind of stuck at home here, but there are ways to work around this. So simple random sampling, what you could do is you could, there are random number generators online, and you could pick a random generator and so say, for example, your random generator gives you the number 3, and then you go through your contact list or your followers list on Instagram or your friends list on Facebook and pick that third person and ask them your question. Okay, so you could pick have that random sample to where you use that random number generator and create it. Stratified, you can remember that's when you pick a certain topic about somebody. So like you could pick somebody that all the people that have that are a senior in Eastern Guilford, and then ask random people from that list that are seniors. Okay, and don't act like you don't have access to that. You've got plenty of, I know half of y'all got plenty of Instagram and Facebook friends or your family or whatever. You could even do a stratified with your family members. You could say everybody who is part of the Mitchell family and then pick 2 or 3 people out of that family. Or I want you to pick more than 2 or 3, but you know what I mean. Cluster means that you're picking a certain topic about somebody. Like you could sit there and pick people that have Jordans and then ask them how many pairs of shoes that they have. And remember, cluster means that you're asking everybody from that group. Okay, systematic, remember that's when you're picking like every third or fourth person. So that one would be an easy one because you could go through your Instagram followers or your Facebook friends or Twitter or Facebook or whatever else that y'all use and say, okay, every fourth person on my followers list, I'm going to ask them this question, or every fifth person. Okay, you're going to have to ask 50 people, so keep that in mind when you do this. You have to get 50 people. And then convenience, I do not want to see everybody and their mama picking convenience, okay, because I know that one's an easy one to do, but do not be everybody picking convenience, okay? So with convenience, remember that's when you just put the information out there and then everybody comes to you to give those questions. So like you could post it on your Instagram story and have people answer it from your Instagram story, or post a Google form somewhere and on your Facebook or whatever, and then have people answer it on there. All right, so then you have to tell me why you decided that type of sampling method. And then describe your sampling method process. How will you be gathering your data? Who will you be asking? And where will you be asking these questions? And just as an example, whatever you guys do, I also do. So I've done this project already, okay? So what I did was I asked people to pick a random number between 0 and 20, okay? And I created a Google Forms to collect the data from my Facebook friends who volunteered to do the sample. So that was a convenience example, because I posted it on my feed and everybody that saw it, they answered. Okay, so that was convenient for me because I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was post it and they answered. All right, then I said, why did you decide to use this type of sampling? I said, well, due to the coronavirus and being in a different state, using social media and Google Forms gave me the most diverse data because I did have everybody from younger people to older people answering these questions for me. Okay, and you don't have to ask just one question. You could ask 3 or 4 and then pick which question you end up wanting to use. Because I use about 5 different questions, and then I just chose to use the randomly pick between 0 and 20 question. Okay, so that helps you with being able to like work around your project a little bit. And then I answered that I created a Google Forms asking people to randomly pick a number between 0 and 20. I posted that form on Facebook and asked friends to fill it out. I had people respond between ages of 18 to 70, which gives me a diverse, forgot the E there, diverse platform. Okay, so that's an example of what your first page should look like. And then on your survey, you need to give 50 people that survey and write the information in and have them initial. Well, you can't have them initial because you can't be around a bunch of people, but so you don't have to do the initial part. But write the information inside those boxes, okay? So what I did is, and notice if you look at the boxes, it's not 50 answers, but you need 50 people to answer, okay? So what I did is I just split my bottom 2 rows into 2, and so that gave me an extra 10 boxes to fill in so that I have all 50 of my answers on this box. So this is the list of all my people that gave me between 0 and 20 what their numbers that they chose were, okay? And so you'll put your answers there. If you ask them how many siblings, you'll put 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, for however many there are, okay? Then you're going to create some tables based off of what I taught you. I've taught you how to create a frequency table, a histogram. I'm going to change this, and I want you to give me a box and whisker plot instead. Okay, I want you to give me a box and whisker plot and then a normal distribution curve. Okay, so you're going to give me 4 different graphs there, or 4 different tables, and give me that information. Okay, so for example, this is what my tables ended up looking like. Okay, so that's my tally with my frequency table. I chose my frequency table to be go in increments of 4. You can do 5, you can do 6, you can do 2, anything that you want to do depending on what yours is. So like for example, if you chose shoe size, I would probably go in increments of half. So I would be like 7 to 7.5, 8 to 8.5, 9 to 9.5, and that type of deal. Or 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, and so on, okay? And so that created my histogram, and again, you know, I like to put my numbers on top. So that means between 0 and 4, I had 5 people. Between 5 and 8, I had 15. Between 9 and 12, I had 9, and so on, okay? Then I created my box and whisker plot. I gave my 5 number summary, and then I gave the box and whisker plot here at the bottom. And then I gave my normal distribution curve. I gave what my mean was and my standard deviation and created my normal distribution curve there. Okay, it's not gorgeous, but I'm not grading it based off of how pretty it is. I'm grading it off of your actual correctness. So I will be checking your data and making sure your data matches up to what your graph should look like. So make sure you're doing that correctly. All right. Once you create, this is out of order. Once you create, right here. Once you create that, I want you to give me 8 sentences determining your, based off of what your graphs tell you and that type of deal. I want you to tell me, what did the graphs tell you? Okay? What information did you learn? And that does need to be in 8 or more sentences, okay? So like, for example, my stuff is out of whack. Oh, that's because I put this here. There we go. So for example, mine, I put based off the graph, the data is pretty well spread apart. By looking at the frequency table and histogram, the most common number chosen was between 5 and 8. The rest of the numbers were close in frequency. By looking at the box and whisker plot, you can see that the minimum value chosen was 2 and the max chosen was 19, which makes the range to be 17. The box and whisker plot also tells me that my lower quartile is 7, my upper quartile is 13, which makes my inner quartile range to be 6. The box and whisker plot also shows that the data is well spread and not skewed left or right. The distribution curve tells me that 68% of my data should be between 5.82 and 15.58, which is true since the range between 4 and 16, what I did is I added up my columns between 4 and 16 and divided that by 50, and that told me that 70% of my data was within that range. So that actually matches up between that range of my standard deviation and all that good stuff. So you're just giving me information based off of the graphs, what you can read from that, okay? Then you're gonna give me what the mean, median, mode, and range are, okay? I want that. And so like mine, my mean was 10.5, my median was 10, my mode was 17, and my range was 17, okay? And then you're gonna tell me what that tells you about the information. So you're gonna sit there and say, okay, what does the mean tell you? What does the median tell you? The mode and the range and all that good stuff. So like for mine, I put that the mean of my data is 10.5. This means that the average of the data is close to the middle of 0 and 20, which I expected, okay? So you can tell me if you expected that or if it's different from what you expected. The median is 10. I expected the mean, median, mode to be around 10, but my mode is 17, which is not what I expected. I honestly thought that most people would choose the right in the middle between 0 and 20, but most people actually chose 17, which was different from what I expected. And then the largest chosen point is 19, and the smallest chosen point is 2, which creates a range of 17. So I just summarized what those bits of information tell me. And then on the last page, you're summarizing everything that you've done in this project, what that project tells you, what you can prove from the information, something that you discovered, and all of that good stuff. So like on mine, I collected my data. I expected most people to pick the number 10 and shoot or close to 10. Based on the histogram and mode, I was wrong. With this data, I can prove that while it is not impossible to guess someone's number choice, it still would be very hard. Most people chose between 6 to 8 or 17. It was also able to prove that little to no one is likely to pick 0 or 20, because out of 50 people, I literally had no one pick 0 or 20. Based on all my graphs and data, the choices are pretty well spread out. Since the mean is 10.5 and the standard deviation is 4.8, this also proves the spread of my data, how spread apart my data is. And at the end of the day, if given a choice between 0 and 20, people have a probability of choosing any number. So a lot of people try to act like they can predict what somebody's number is going to be. Most likely you can't predict, because if you looked at the normal distribution curve, it was really spread out. You could kind of take a guess that someone's going to pick between 6 to 8 or number 17, just because that wasn't what my mode and the largest number choice range was. But really, you can't really determine what that is. So that's your project, okay? This is due the 19th, just like the rest of your assignments are. So I would highly suggest you not wait until the last second like you did in Unit 5 on everybody else's classwork, okay? So if you have any questions on your data, if you have any questions on how to do the project, if you have any questions on if your question is a good question to ask, any of those things, please let me know and I'll answer them, okay? Bye.